Welcome to the GEOVITAL Academy. I'm excited that you're here.
Okay, here we are at the building site here in Thailand. So we're going to take some measurements.
Hold on to the wire. Yep. There's this concept of electronic pollution.
I mean, we've been doing this for 35 years, but we're getting more and more involved in the shielding of entire homes.
All right, so this is our little demonstration room. What an opportunity to do a little bit of an interview with you so people get to know you. This is Patrick Vandenberg, your global radiation specialist. Okay, great. Thank you for coming to EMFQ&A, where we give you an opportunity to sort of connect with us and ask any a lot of questions in relation to existing homes. So Bruce asks if 5G is growing and expanding, and then there's more transmitters getting out there. So when somebody is not at home, when they go out, how do you protect yourself against that, assuming you don't have a 5G phone on you? And makes a comment that some cities are really pushing to be the smart city, right? Which is in relation to radio frequency radiation is actually really dumb, but that's a different discussion. All right, so there's a couple of assumptions and oversights in this whole question. All right, you're asking about 5G. We already have studies, as in there are already independent peer-reviewed research studies on the effects of 3G and 4G, showing that this is a massive impact on our health. There's studies looking at one side of the city, there's more phone towers, and the other side of the city, there's less phone towers, and they see more cancer in that part of town. And those sorts of, this is all pre-5G. 5G is just more of the bad stuff we already had. So forget about the fact that 5G is here. It doesn't matter what the name is, there's just more of this stuff. And it was already bad before 5G was here. So let's be clear about that. All right, so you ask, what do you do when you're away from home? Okay, well, I have to bring us back, though. We're exposed to radiation everywhere, obviously. You have signals everywhere. Check for Wi-Fi on your computer, how many connections you have when you're at work, the endless list. It's easy to get paranoid, really stressed about this exposure. And whilst it would be good to reduce it and would be good to support ourselves during that exposure, I have to impress something upon you that makes a lot of sense. Our bodies rest and repair almost exclusively at night when we sleep. Intuitively, you know this. If you don't feel well, if you're a bit under the weather, where do you want to go? You want to go home and you want to get in bed. Because chances are when you have a little sleep, you wake up, you probably feel a little bit better. Thank goodness the body works that way, right? If we rested and repaired whilst we were awake, this would be a very different scenario when it comes to radiation avoidance and shielding and trying to create an environment where your body can rest and regenerate properly, because you're out of your house and out of control. So the good news is, in all this stuff, is that your bedroom matters most. And I would argue that any money you invest in dealing with this EMF story, in this radiation story, the first dollars you should be spending is on that bedroom. That's the place that matters. That's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. So whilst it's an interesting discussion, what do we do when we're away from home? I, of course, need to bring this up, that your focus, first, your bedroom should be perfect, right? Then worry about what happens outside. All right, so having said that, what do you do when you're away from home if you want to reduce exposure? Well, as Bruce pointed out, obviously, you could limit the technology you carry on you as a person. So if you have a cell phone, which most of us do, you could choose not to have a phone that's 5G enabled. Some phones, you can turn that feature off, which requires you to trust that that means it's not actually able to connect or use that anymore, right? You just see something in the software changing. You're just hoping it does the job. I point this out because there's Wi-Fi routers that you can turn the Wi-Fi off, but the Wi-Fi isn't off. Only your ability to connect with it is off. So, you have to trust the software that it actually does that. I can't sugarcoat it with cell phones. You shouldn't have one. Right? I shouldn't have one. You shouldn't have one. But we think we need to be contactable, and people expect this connectivity also. So it's hard to just stop using them. So you could use an older phone. When it comes to 5G specifically, I know a little bit more about iPhones than other sort of phones. In the United States, the plans were much bigger when it came to using 5G technology, as in they were using higher than 8 gigahertz frequencies to connect from tower to cell phones. I think they abandoned that idea reasonably quickly in the rest of the world because of the hardware involved. But in the US, they sort of pushed forward with that. If you buy an iPhone inside the United States, it'll have the technology on board to use these higher frequencies. If you buy, I don't know, iPhone 13, 14, and you buy it somewhere else, you buy it in the UK, you buy it in Australia, India, I don't know, you'll see on the box that it contains antennas sub 8 gigahertz or something, it says on the back. And then it doesn't have that hardware on board. So that's, if you're trying to avoid these sorts of things, that's not a bad idea. If you want to upgrade a phone, buy one overseas, don't buy it in the US. So that helps. Turn off what you don't need, right? So if you don't need data connectivity, then turn it off. Your phone has the ability to connect and receive a phone call, and it's typically a separate setting to enable data to come in. As soon as data is enabled, it'll use a hell of a lot more. It connects a lot more to check if your apps are up to date. And we can download something. Did you know the weather has changed? It's constantly checking, constantly there's activities going on. Where if you turn all that off and your phone is a phone, of course, it still has a signal that goes out when you drive, from one place to another. With older phones, you used to be able to hear that on your radio. Do you still use a radio? You had that sound when, it was trying to do a handshake signal with the next tower that it was driving towards. So it does something, but it is less active than when you've got this data enabled. So in terms of habits, if you wanted to avoid more exposure, well, first of all, you turn your phone to flight mode, but then you can't receive a call. That's not necessarily so bad, though. I mean, how important are you? Right? You could put it on flight mode. When you feel the need, you take it off flight mode. You then get your messages, which, you can't look at them when they're in your pocket anyway. So then messages will come in as in, you got 3 messages. And if you missed the phone call, then obviously it'll tell you missed the phone call, and then you can respond to that. In the meantime, your phone is not constantly connected whilst it's on you. Now, your phone shouldn't be in your pocket. I have a good habit of just not sticking my phone in my pocket. I carry it around with me, I have my wallet and my phone just in my hand, and just walk around with it everywhere. So try and resist the habit of sticking it in your pants pockets, especially because it's near your genetic material. If you're still hoping to get kids, you want those kids to have, to be put together from the best DNA, the best genetic material that you had to contribute, right? You don't want to have, lesser quality, which is what a lot of researchers are worried about. All right, so that's sort of, I guess, it with phones. So don't have one, turn on to flight mode. And, if I know you're on call, your boss needs to be able to get a hold of you. Well, then disconnect data, disconnect Bluetooth, disconnect Wi-Fi, and just have the phone connection. And then that works. In terms of on the phone, never put it on your head, obviously. In the terms and conditions of especially iPhones, it actually says don't put this thing against your skin, don't put it against your head, right? And everybody does. So don't do that. Use speakerphone instead. I mean, goodness, you're not that important. As in none of us are, right? If you were in a bus and a friend walked up to you, you wouldn't whisper in each other's ears, would you? You just had a conversation. So put your phone on speakerphone and just talk to it. Better yet, put it on the table and talk to it like that. You don't even have to hold it. Beyond that, headsets. From what I know, if you have a headset you plug in and there's a metal electrical cable going all the way to the speaker that's sitting in your ear, it has very little purpose because the radiation just runs up the cable. Things that do work are air tubes. So they have a little speaker on your chest. From there is like a stethoscope, 2 little tubes that the sound goes through. They work quite well. We sold them for some while, but they didn't tend to last. 3 months, they might break or something. So I don't expect too much out of them, but they do actually work. Yeah, otherwise a phone pouch. We have phone pouches on our website, healthstronghold.com. They have shielded fabric on one side of the phone. So if you're going to put it against your head, then the fabric can sit in the middle. And you've got 2 layers of shielded fabric between you and the phone, which is a good idea, but I still would urge you to put it on speakerphone anyway. But yeah, if you need that privacy, then at least put something in the middle. Then yeah, sort of what else can you do when you're out and about other than, I don't know, try and hide between concrete walls and that sort of stuff, which is a little bit undoable. Just sort of left field. There's certain nutrients that your body, antioxidants that your body will be more taxed on when exposed to radiation. So it might not be a bad idea to get some advice on that and get some supplements to sort of keep those level up. I think selenium is one of them. Of course, good old vitamin C helps us as well. So yeah, you could sort of look at those sorts of things. Yeah, I think that sort of answers your question. So I hope that helped.